Saints extended their unbeaten run in the Championship to 12 games with that 1-1 draw at Watford, but that last-minute equaliser was pretty hard to take. Steve, you were there when the dust settles. Is that still going to be seen as a good point?
I mean, we're not going to know that until some way down the line, I suspect. I mean, at the end of the day, we didn't lose, which going into half-time, it felt quite possible that we could have done, because midfield kind of fell apart for 15 minutes before half-time, really. But it was a really strange game in that it was really wide open, and yet neither side created very much at all. Both sides got into decent positions. Final ball was bad, or in fairness, there was some good defending on both sides. Thought Bednarek was excellent for us at the back. Two really vital sort of block sort of interceptions on crosses in the first half, right in front of us, which basically prevented a tap in for them. And but I think once you're 1-0 up, and especially when you get that deep into the game, and at that point, Watford didn't really look like they knew how they were going to break us down in that injury time period. I mean, eight minutes went up, and I kind of thought, well, I mean, you could have announced 18, and I wouldn't have been overly concerned, especially the way that we've been managing injury time in games where we've had 1-goal leads this season. We've generally managed it pretty well, I think. So yeah, it was obviously disappointing the way it came, but I mean, it's still kind of just a shot to nothing that I think despite everything last season, I think everyone's surprised that it's gone in. Bazunu was excellent, I thought, for 94 minutes yesterday, and he was as much to kind of be lauded for us holding the 1-0 lead as anybody on the pitch, really. And yeah, so it's obviously disappointing that the way he's kind of dived over the top of that. But I think it certainly looked like on the replay on the big screen that basically he just didn't have his feet in order at the time where the lads hit the shot. I think he's taken a little bit by surprise that he's hit it so early. It's come through, I think, Harvard Bellis's legs, and yeah, he's just missed it. It's annoying, but yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's a point, and we've actually opened up a further gap on the teams below us. So that's kind of consolidating the top four, really. But yeah, just annoying that the three above us won, and yeah, so we've obviously lost ground on them.
Yeah. I mean, Alfie, there seem to be reoccurring themes that come up every week, and at the moment it's that need to create more, isn't it? Get that goal and then try and push on. What was your take on the game yesterday?
I think you should have gone to Glen first after only had about 5 minutes of him last weekend. But I felt very much the same as Steve, really. They struggled in the first half, didn't they? There was next to no space, no penetration. I think Watford put a lot of balls into the box, but I think, as Steve alluded to, not too many big chances. Gavin Bazunu saving probably the only one. And I thought they made a good change at half-time, Southampton. I thought bringing Charlie Alcaraz off, who was having a difficult day, couldn't seem to just find the man 10 yards in front of him. And they brought a natural wide man on. And I think in the first half, I only saw maybe Carl and Ryan Manning get one cross in each. And then in the second half, you got a lot made of natural wide man, Adam Armstrong on the right, Ryan Fraser on the left. And obviously the goal comes from the ball from the left as well. So, I think it was an improved second half. But then at the same time, they didn't have a shot for the last 20 minutes of the game. And I think Watford had 4 or 5 in that time. And, Russell Martin felt that his team would get the second goal. And they had moments, but I think there was one where we missed Flynn Downs obviously so much, and not being available was a huge miss. And there was one specific moment where Shay Charles had an opportunity to make it a 2-on-1 with Ryan Fraser, but just didn't have the energy, didn't have the legs to get into the box and sort of kill the game off in a moment where somebody else may have done. So I think it's a real frustrating one. I think it's a decent point. I think they've a lot of us predicted it would be a draw. I think me and Steve both predicted it would be a draw. They're a good side, and I think it's okay for a point. And I think we're sort of in territory of we're risking an overreaction at every bad result at the moment, because this team are on course for about 86, 87 points, which is a lot. And although ultimately you are going to be judged on this at the end of the season, judging them against the 2 best starts in Championship history feels a little bit harsh. But yeah, it wasn't the perfect game by any means.
Was it just disappointing to lose 2 points so late in the game, Glenn? Is that the sucker punch? If that goal had been like 10 minutes before, perhaps we'd be going, yeah, do you know what? It's not so bad.
It was a really weird feeling when that goal went in, because as Steve said, it wasn't like they'd been battering our goal for 10 minutes and they'd finally broken through and we were all sat there going, oh, this is coming, this is coming. It's an absolute nothing, isn't it? It's just a launch forward, a decision by Harwood Bellis kind of not to just power the header away. He's kind of trying to cushion it down or let it drop behind him and knock it back to the keeper or whatever. And then obviously the mistake by Bazunu, which it's not the first time he's let one in low to his left-hand side. I think there was one at Sunderland that kind of crept under his arm as well. So maybe that's something he's got to work on. So it was... I didn't really have time to get too sort of disappointed about the goal itself because it absolutely came from nowhere. It was just like, what the hell? I thought as Steve said, I thought we were going to sort of like canter through and win it. And I thought Watford were out of ideas. And, we've let in basically a park football goal. And it's just, it's frustrating that, the two mistakes came on top of each other. From two players who had played well and have been playing well for a number of weeks, and it's cost us 2 points. But I agree with what you said in the intro. If you look at the teams that we're trying to catch at the moment, as the clock ticked 90, correct me if I got this the wrong way around. Leicester were 4 up, Leeds were 2 up, Ipswich were 2 up. They're not having a nervous last 5-6 minutes because they are keeping the pressure on and scoring second goals, third goals, whatever, and winning comfortably. And the main thing the mistake happened. That's what happens occasionally, obviously, but we are treading a fine line too often because we are just not. We're not getting enough shots on target for the amount of possession that we have in virtually any game. Now, how you judge that, I don't know, but we're only, how many saves did their keeper make? We scored a goal. I remember he made one from Fraser and one from Stuart Armstrong that was straight at him. But other than that, I don't really remember him working. So that was my sort of like main take of the game, is that we have to make the opposition goalkeeper work harder than what we are at the moment.
Flynn Downs was a big loss yesterday, Alfie, but it sounds like he did his best to try and be there and make himself available. That's the kind of commitment that you love to hear about and read about.
Yeah, he's obviously a brilliant character, isn't he? I think the timeline is that he was unwell on Thursday and then came back in for training on Friday and was sent home. But then he drove up to Watford himself separately in a car that night to stay in the hotel and be available for selection on Saturday morning. But then woke up and he still wasn't feeling very well. Was feeling a little bit worse. So yeah, it didn't work that time. But hopefully he'll be back in Wednesday. But I think, we saw it. I actually watched the video that Saints uploaded for 99p, the Flynn Downs training video, and I'm sure that not everybody is willing to part with that money to watch that. But what you do see in that video is he's obviously an excellent character. He's somebody who is tutoring Ryan Fraser in that video and sort of telling him where he needs to be, and he's played the system before. So yeah, fair play to him for trying that. And he was a huge miss. I thought that Shea Charles, Joe Rebo, Stewie all did fine in isolation, but you just felt that the midfield, it was missing something, wasn't it? It wasn't quite right. Especially towards the end of the game, I suppose those legs were missed. But I'm sure Glen will mention him. But fair play to Joe Rebo for sort of taking his chance. And he wasn't a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. But fair play to him for sort of stepping up in the moment.
I was going to say liability. Rebo, yeah. He came in. After that sub appearance last week, he kind of earned that chance, didn't he? And when you saw the name on the team sheet, you went, okay, Flynn Downs being out is a problem. But to be fair, Rebo earned the right to be in that starting lineup. And how did he do for you? What was your take?
He did okay. He wasn't a liability. Earlier on in the season, if I'd seen that kind of midfield lineup with him and Stuart Armstrong, I'd have thought, ooh, that's a little bit lightweight. And perhaps that indeed was what proved to be the case in the end, because I thought, Ariba hasn't played much. He's certainly not played 90 minutes, so it's not surprising he kind of cramped up at the end and had to go off. Shea Charles obviously doesn't have many 90 minute performances. in his locker so far. So he looked very, very tired towards the end of both halves, actually, but particularly the second half. And I think maybe we lost the legs a little bit in midfield. But as I said earlier, that's not the reason we let the goal in. That was just a punt up the middle. So, but maybe we could have controlled the game a little bit better in that last 10. But no, I thought Aribo did okay. What he's got over someone like Smallbone is that he's got a lot of strength on the ball, so he will hold people off. There was one bit where he sort of he got the ball in the corner and he just sort of rolled the man and sort of barreled into the penalty area and ended up winning a corner, which I think was the chance that Adam Armstrong flicked over the bar in the first half, the only chance we had really. So he did some good things, and he certainly wasn't the liability that I would have previously thought thought he was going to be. So yeah, he's kind of backed it up by having 2 semi-decent performances in a row now, and I'm not sure the balance in the midfield was quite right, but we didn't really have the choice because Smallbone wasn't ready to start and Downs wasn't there, so he did okay.
And last week, Steve, I know you weren't on the pod, but we talked about Che Adams needing to step up now. He got his first goal since August, just as another transfer window creeps into view. But another start for him. So that's going to give him a bit of confidence. And, all the noise is that he's might be here to the end of the season. So maybe his goals could come in quite handy.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he's going to play like he did in the second half yesterday, then great. If we're going to see what we've seen basically from the start of September until the end of November, then I'll pass, thanks. But I mean, yesterday was encouraging. Even at the end of the day, even if he is kind of out for himself and looking for what may be around the corner in January, at the end of the day, that works for us at the moment.
Yeah.
Because if he's putting in performances for us, then that means we've got a better chance of winning games in the short term. If an offer comes in January, or if something develops next month, then cross that bridge when we come to it and evaluate what we've got available to us. But for now, I think ultimately he's our best kind of back to goal centre forward. I think. I mean, I was surprised he was taken off, to be honest, because basically, as soon as he went off, I mean, Mara came on and actually was fine, didn't do anything wrong per se, but it seemed to kind of relax their defenders a little bit more. It meant that they could probably push up 5 or 10 more yards and squeeze the space a little bit more. Whereas with him backing into them and causing them problems, they knew that he was likely to retain possession, and they then had to worry about midfielders running on. Whereas Mara, he's never going to play as a back to goal sort of hold up guy. So the kind of thought process had to change a little bit, and yeah, I would have kept him on for the full 90. But I mean, let's kind of give up with this idea of playing him as a left winger, please.
Yeah.
Just the rest of the front three then, Alfie. Obviously, another assist, I think, for Armstrong, but Alcaraz kind of like dropping in and out of that front three and not the best of afternoons for him. Was that because perhaps he was asked to do something different, or was that just a case of tired legs? Because I thought he looked a bit off it against Cardiff, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he's obviously a young lad, isn't he? I think we've spoken about a few of the things that happened to him this year. I think you probably put down yesterday to just an off day at the end of the day, just a few missed passes in the first 10, 15 minutes, and then maybe it's in his head and he's thinking, I've bugged up a few things there. But there was a few moments of quality from him. I think I can't actually remember exactly what he did, annoyingly, but a couple of defensive moments as well. And I felt I just felt the front three in general looked more natural. It looked better when they put a natural wide man on, moved Armour slightly out, because this, I suppose, where you've got Alcaraz sort of dropping in from the most advanced man into the midfield, you can lose him in the game a little bit, I suppose. But whether he starts on Wednesday at Coventry or not, I'm not 100% sure. I think it'll be interesting to see, but maybe he's one for Saturday when we come back to Blackburn.
Yeah, I was going to say, Glen, I mean, we'll get onto the Coventry game in just a moment. We'll do Player of the Week as well. But we've got that opportunity again, haven't we, Glen, where we've got a game on Wednesday. You suddenly pick up some points on Wednesday. You win on Saturday. And then we could be here this time next week talking about another 7-point week. And that's not a disaster.
Yeah, now the international breaks have all bored off for a while. I know Steve likes them, so he gets to go to foreign countries and whatnot. But
clock up his air miles.
Yeah. So now the international weeks have bored off. It must be quite nice to not have time to dwell on a iffy result or an iffy performance, and you just get on with it. You just hope it gives enough time, in this case, for Flynn Downs to recover. I mean, I don't know too much about how Coventry play, whether there will need to be any sort of like tactical switches to counter what they do. Whether Russell Martin thinks that we'd be better off playing with, a natural right and left winger rather than the false nine thing. Don't know, but it's nice that it's only 3 days away, and as Alfie was alluding to earlier on, we can't all overreact for very long. We've got to get our heads down. We've got another game on Wednesday, and then another one a couple of days after that. So bring it on. I like the Championship. It's great.
All right, let's do nominations for Player of the Week then. Feel free to shout out who really jumped out. I mean, Bednarek's been mentioned. I guess he's got to be one of them. Anybody else?
Flynn Downs.
For the effort.
Well, his importance was laid pretty bare yesterday, I think. I thought Walker Peters was excellent again. Other than that, it was kind of bits and pieces performances from everybody, I thought. Basically up until 96 minutes, I'd have put Bazunu on there as well.
100%.
Absolutely.
He was excellent, but obviously that one mistake.
Lots the copybook, doesn't it?
Well, keeper making the mistake generally ends up with a goal, so
you don't get away with it. Yeah,
you're stuffed, aren't you?
Yeah. It is actually the reason I never really enjoyed playing football, because, like you say, you can watch your striker miss sort of 6 1-on-1s, but the second you let a corner through your legs and it goes in, it's all your fault. Which, to be fair, is probably true.
Corner through your legs.
Well, I never enjoyed it. I gave up at 18 for that reason.
I'd say Che Adams is the only one worth a mention, because of what he did in the second half.